Hey guys, Axel here. Welcome back. Today's video is going to be about the AFUL Performer 5+2. A truly impressive IEM and is probably for me the best AFUL IEM I have tried to date. And I will kind of let you guys know why I say that, so let's begin. For the unboxing, I will just post a picture that will summarize the included accessories. We have a cable which is not modular, unfortunately, but there you go. It's very soft, very pliable, very similar to the cable that came with the Performer 5, just slightly different color. And these are the earpieces themselves. There you go. This is how they look like, kind of greenish in color, and it's going to be, of course, a matter of personal taste. I like the way they look. I think they look fantastic. The nozzle diameter is very small, actually. It's 5.8 at the widest point, and I had no pressure issues. They have a vent here, and they direct the air and stuff like that. I had no pressure issues, no comfort issues. It's very comfortable. I wore it all day. And with that said, let's talk about the sound. So how does the Performer 5+2 sound? Well, it sounds amazing. Let me tell you that. Starting with the sub bass, all right? The sub bass has a great amount of rumble to it. The bass is strong. It has a good amount of punchiness and slam to it. It's very detailed and extremely textured. Like, for example, the bass guitars, you can hear the quality of the bass. You can hear the detail in the bass. And overall, it's very impressive. For the lower mid-range, again, it's just perfect for my taste. It has a lot of fullness, a lot of lushness to the sound, while maintaining a lot of detail as well. The mid-range, overall, it sounds very spacious. It sounds highlighted as well. It stands out from the music, and you can kind of hear a lot of detail in the mid-range. It's not recessed, it's not overly forward, and it's not going to sound shouty or shrill, zero issues, but it's going to give you a bit of a highlight, so it's not, you know, laid back type of presentation. Male and female vocals are equally represented, and they sound great. For the treble, another great thing about it is it sounds, I would describe it exactly as sparkly. It has a lot of shimmer in it. Like, it's airy, but it has a lot of sparkle, and it's very, very defined. Like, I would describe it as you can hear exactly the notes, where they begin, where they end. Like, everything is just super clear and super defined and incisive. Transients are, again, great, on point, and there is, like, the attack has a lot of sharpness in it. I don't mean sharpness like treble sharp or anything. I mean everything is clearly defined. In terms of the overall sound signature, it's a very, very fun sound signature. You get a lot of bass, you get a lot of air. Female vocals sound spacious, sound lively, sounds extended, and the male vocals, again, retain that fullness. And like a lot of the instruments have that heft, have that body that I look forward to in the mid-range. In terms of spaciousness of the sound, because this is a very wide sounding IEM, everything has a sense of space in it. The instruments like sound separated from each other and separated from the vocals as well. You kind of get also excellent imaging, probably because of the way the treble is presented. And in terms of level of detail, it's a very, very resolving IEM. And if I bring up the technical scale, it's way more resolving than the Truth Ear Nova, but it's less than the Pilgrim. I would say, when I compared it to the Pilgrim, I would say it's the 70% level of detail of the Elysian Pilgrim, which is impressive, honestly. Let's talk about the comparison segment. I will start the comparison with the Performer 5 because this is the main IEM that people are going to compare it to. I love the Performer 5. I prefer it even to the Performer 8, but let me explain the differences. Number one, you get a higher quality type of bass in the new 5+2. It's more textured, it's more detailed, you get more sub-bass extension, and the vocals kind of feel more highlighted on the 5+2. The male and female vocals like kind of stand out in the mix. I know it looks similar on the graph, but to my ears, there is more vocal clarity and instrument separation on the 5+2. Level of detail is much better on the Performer 5+2. It's a huge difference, honestly. And another thing is it sounds way more open than the Performer 5, and the treble, as I said, is more distinct, more defined. That planar tweeter is just doing something. And by the way, the Performer 5+2 is a 2DD, 4BA, and one planar tweeter. So that kind of explains the treble I was hearing, because it is a very clear and detailed and incisive type of treble presentation. Obviously, I don't see any reason now for anyone to get the Performer 5. Obviously, you can do whatever you like, but honestly, if you're looking at the Performer 5, you have to check out the 5+2, man. It's an upgrade in every way, shape, or form. Absolutely amazing. Let me bring out one of my favorite IEMs ever. The AFUL Explorer. It's a great fun sounding IEM. It's exciting, it's engaging, and man, everything. If you love the Explorer, you're going to absolutely love the Performer 5 Plus 2 because they took everything amazing about the Explorer and they just did it better. Bass now is just, it's the same type of punch and slam, it's not more, but it's definitely more textured, it's more detailed, it's more separated from the mid-range. The vocals on the Explorer kind of sounded a bit laid back, whereas they are very highlighted on the Performer 5 Plus 2 without sounding shouty. They're way smoother. There's more detail absolutely on the 5 Plus 2 and way more separation. The treble on the Performer, on the Explorer kind of sounded a bit dark. You had to kind of raise the volume for the vocals to pop and the treble to shine, whereas you don't need that. Like, yeah, the Performer 5 Plus 2 scales with volume. I don't listen to high volume, guys, but at low and mid volume, it sounded amazing and you don't need to turn up the volume. Another thing I noticed is the stage. The stage of the Explorer is like kind of intimate sounding, whereas it is very, very spacious on the 5 Plus 2. So again, if you want an upgraded, better, improved version of the Explorer, you're going to love the 5 Plus 2. Let me bring out the Performer 8. Before I begin, I prefer the Performer 5, the OG, more than the Performer 8. It's just a matter of tonality. I like the bass and I like the way, you know, the mid-range is done with the bass, you know, and so on. Let me say the differences between them. The bass, of course, is much less on the Performer 8. You get way more bass and better, higher quality type of bass on the new 5 Plus 2. It's a lot more textured. Like you can hear, for example, Billie Eilish, Bad Guy, 2 minutes 40 seconds, the bass, the beat when it drops. The bass texture, the tonality, the slam is just so much better on the Performer 5 Plus 2. And in terms of detail, I will shock you guys and say I did my comparisons, did my homework, compared them side by side, volume matched, and they're very similar, but I have to give the edge to the Performer 5 Plus 2. Definitely the treble is smoother on the Performer 8, but it's not as detailed as it is on the Performer 5 Plus 2. It's amazing. Like if I had to choose one between them, I would choose the 5 Plus 2. Now let me bring out one of my favorite IEMs again, which is the DynaQuattro. I will say again, the bass of the DynaQuattro is still, I wouldn't say, yeah, it is better, honestly. It just hits harder. It has more slam, it has more impact, it has more punch to it. And again, the sub-bass rumbles harder. I feel like the bass quality of the DynaQuattro kind of more textured and it is kind of better. And while the Performer 5 Plus 2 has great sounding natural timbre, and I tested the timbre with like male vocals, female vocals, violins, cellos, and low, mid, high notes of pianos, and it sounded very natural. But I have to say, there is something about the timbre of the DynaQuattro that I haven't seen in other IEMs. Like the DynaQuattro has the best sounding timbre for an IEM under $400 that I have ever tried. But it's a bit hard to drive and it's kind of lacks more air. Like I've said that since day one, I kind of felt the DynaQuattro kind of needed a bit more air or upper air extension to make it just sound more lively. Whereas here on the 5 Plus 2, we get that air, we get that you know, that sparkle, that shimmer. And in terms of detail, again, the 5 Plus 2 is more detailed than the DynaQuattro. I know the DynaQuattro has a bit more forward vocals and I love it for that, but for some reason they sounded more separated from the mix and has more nuances, especially in the female vocals on the Performer 5 Plus 2. So that's amazing. Now let me bring also the Kiwi Ears KE4, a great IEM that I recommend. It's the most affordable meta-tuned IEM that we can get right now. Obviously gets my recommendation, but there are differences, of course, in the tuning between them. The Kiwi Ears KE4 has great bass. The tonality is a bit warm, neutral type of sound. It has like when I listened to it, the word that kept popping in my mind was that it kind of sounded slightly thick. Vocals could sound a bit slightly, just a touch laid back. I kind of felt like it needed like maybe 1 or 2 dBs to the upper mid-range to make the vocals pop, where they pop more, of course, on the Performer 5 Plus 2. And while the treble, great treble extension on the Kiwi Ears, maybe for some people could be too much. For me, I felt the Kiwi Ears treble is great, but I kind of feel the quality of the treble is much higher and better on the Performer 5 Plus 2. As I said, it has more clarity and more distinction, like the transients are better, and the Kiwi Ears 4 is not a technically strong IEM. Like, again, I tested it myself for my ears. I felt that the Truth Ear Nova slightly edges it out in terms of detail, whereas the Performer 5 Plus 2 is an extremely detailed IEM without pushing a lot of detail on your face and making you feel uncomfortable. Again, this is going to be a preference type of thing, and I recommend both. Both are great IEMs. If you want a meta-tuned IEM, you're going to get it here. And if you want like something with a bit more detail, with a bit more highlighted mid-range and a higher quality type of treble with wider sound, with a better imaging and so forth, you're going to get it in the AFUL Performer 5+2. And the last comparison I will bring it is, the Cantor. Don't get me wrong, the Cantor is still way more detailed. And on my desk, it was literally 90% the level of detail that you get with the Anole VX. And it was insane. Probably one of the most detailed IEMs I have ever tested. But I prefer the Performer 5+2. Why? If you guys remember when I reviewed the Cantor, I kind of said in the video that I kind of felt the vocals, the male vocals on the AFUL Cantor kind of sounded a bit lean to my taste, whereas we get the fullness in the mid-range, we get that thickness, the proper note weight, we get it here with the Performer 5+2. Another thing is the level of bass. I enjoy the bass, of course, more on the Performer 5+2, and obviously the 5+2 is going to give you the better value. If you still want a monitor type of tuning, a reference, something that's going to dissect your music and give you everything you want to hear, of course I recommend the Cantor, but it's not, you know, for my taste, I like more bass. It's not going to be as enjoyable as the 5+2. It's not going to be fun, engaging, or lively as the Performer 5+2. And with that said, let's talk about who do I recommend the 5+2 for. I recommend it for people who are looking for an all-rounder IEM. If you want an IEM that will do everything great, give you great bass, give you great vocals, highlighted mid-range, sparkly, shimmery, airy type of treble presentation, while giving you a lot of detail as well, I recommend the 5+2. If you want something for relaxed listening, you know, like you don't want something that's going to shove a lot of treble in your face, or like something that's going to shove the mid-range in your face, while still being very detailed. Like if you just focus, you will find a lot of detail, more than many of the IEMs on the desk here. Yeah, I recommend the 5+2. It's going to give you exactly that. So it's a good all-rounder, spacious sounding, wide sounding. They just fixed everything in the other IEMs. Excellent imaging. I recommend that. If you want something that will give you a smooth type of sound signature, something that's balanced with a balanced tonality, I recommend it. If you are someone who tried the AFUL Explorer and you love it and you kind of wish it had a bit more upper mid-range, you kind of feel that you wanted a bit more treble extension, while you want more air, you want more detail, you want something more spacious and wider sounding, again, the 5+2 is going to give you that. If you like the Performer 5 and you want something more detailed, spacious sounding, again, the 5+2 is there. And if you like the Performer 8, but you kind of felt like me, that you wanted more bass and more detail even, and better, higher quality treble, I recommend the Performer 5+2. Who I don't recommend this for, because this is also important. While I would describe the Performer 5+2 as a neutral with bass boost, this is not going to be exactly a neutral sounding IEM. If you're looking for a neutral sounding IEM, there are other IEMs that are going to do that. For example, Soft Ears Studio 4 is one IEM. Again, for people who want a more Harman type of tuning, people who want to try the meta type of tuning. I mean, because the AFUL Performer 5+2 has some emphasis on the bass and has some emphasis on the upper air region, so it's not exactly neutral or Harman or meta tuned. Again, there are also going to be better value oriented options like the Explorer. The Explorer has kind of similar tonality, not exactly the same, but it's still fun, it's still engaging, a bit laid back, a bit dark in the treble, but it's going to be an option. And for those who feel that they want a monitor type of bass, because I talked to you guys online and many of you, I noticed, like a level of bass like the Performer 8 or like a monitor or reference, this is not going to be that. This has a strong bass response. At the same time, it's not going to be for bass heads, not even close. This is not for bass heads. If you're a bass head, there are other IEMs for that. Yeah, and that's it. Let's bring up our final rating system, and I will rate the Performer 5+2. I will give it, confidently, I will give it a 4.5 stars out of 5 stars. I tried my best. I squeezed my brain about something that I didn't like about the Performer 5+2, and I couldn't find any. There is nothing that I wish would be changed in the tuning, nothing that was not included. Maybe a modular cable. Come on, AFUL, you know, you could give us that. It's kind of expected at this price. But other than that, there is nothing that I wish was done. Fit and comfort is great. Nozzle diameter is small and comfortable. No pressure issues. Great bass. Highlighted mid-range. Spacious sound. Airy, sparkly, shimmery treble. A lot of detail. A lot of excellent imaging qualities. And definitely gets a double thumbs up from me. Probably one of the best IEMs that landed on my desk this year is the Performer 5+2. It's an amazing IEM. If you've tried it, let me know your thoughts down in the comment section. If you have questions, leave them down in the comment section below. And guys, this concludes our review of the Performer 5+2, and I will catch you in the next one. Peace.